Last episode, we drew the whole architecture. Today, we pour the foundation, we generate the project, we pull in and understand every dependency, and we get all our configuration in place. By the end, you will have a clean, fully wired Spring Boot skeleton, the base that every feature in this series bolts onto. We are not writing business logic today, and we are not even going to run it yet. There is nothing behind it to connect to. Today is about doing the setup right, because a shaky foundation is something you pay for in every episode after. So let's go. Alright, so let's first generate our project, and I'm going to use Spring Initializr for that. So first of all, what do we exactly need? Let's first talk about that. So I'm going to go with Maven, language is Java, Spring Boot, whatever is newest version for you, you can use that. I'm going to go with 4.0.5, and then I'm going to use a name here. So let's do Insta Authentication Service. All right. And jar properties 17, you can use any version. I'm going to go with 21 for now. Now let's add dependencies. So what do we need? First of all, we need Spring Web. Then we need security. Then we need JPA. Now we need validation, need mail. Then we need Redis. Now we need PostgreSQL. Then we need Flyway, then Lombok, and then we need more dependencies, and that we can add manually. So let's quickly explore what we have here to summarize. What do we need? So we need JPA, we need Redis, and all the rest. So let's quickly download and import this to our project. So I'm going to go with IntelliJ. Alright, so now let's open downloads, and this is our service. So just click on open and this window. Now this is our project. Now like I said, we would need to add some dependencies manually. So we need a JSON web token, jjwt, API, IMPL, and Jackson for JWT tokens. And then we need Flyway DB and MapStruct. Then we need Bucket4j, and lastly we need these two. I think we can remove this from here. This is not required. Alright, so now let's talk about why do we actually need these dependencies. I think this got updated by mistake. This should be Spring Boot Starter Web. So let's start with this. So Spring Boot Starter Web is basically for your REST APIs building, as in it provides you Spring MVC, embedded Tomcat, and JSON serialization. So it's for your RESTful applications, right? Then we have security. So this is core of your security layer, and it provides you filter chain, authentication, authorization, password encoding. So in case when we have JWT filter integration or stateless security config, or let's suppose we need to protect the endpoint, then we would need to use Spring Boot Starter Security. Now data JPA is pretty simple. This is your ORM layer, as in it provides you Hibernate or any other ORM functionality. So this basically converts Java entities to your PostgreSQL tables or any other database level tables. So I mostly use it for any CRUD operation or basically queries, transactions related things. Now talking about Spring Boot Starter validation, this is for your bean validation, as in when you use the annotations like not null, email, or let's suppose size, then basically it validates the request DTOs, let's suppose for your login or register APIs. Now we have Spring Boot Starter email. I think this is simple. This is just to provide you email sending support, as in SMTP. And basically whenever you have to send a verification email, right now we are going to work with Mailhog, so it provides you that functionality. Now data Redis, this is important. So this is for Redis integration with Spring Boot, and here we are using Redis to store OTP. or let's suppose JWT blacklisting or fast cache layer, because Redis is really popular for cache. Now then we have these that I just added, JWT. So this is basically your authentication core, and let's talk about one by one. So JWT API basically is for JWT creation and parsing interface. This is actually your implementation as in runtime. And talking about this is your JSON serialization inside JWT. Now then we are using PostgreSQL database, so that's why we have this here. And now coming to Flyway. So Flyway core and Flyway database PostgreSQL, this is basically your DB version control. And whenever you have schema migrations, you would need something so that it would be automatically done for you. So this is very important because it keeps DB consistent across each environment. So Flyway is just a tool for versioning the state of your Java applications SQL databases. Now then we have this Bucket4j. So this is rate limiting library, and this is to protect login or register endpoints. For example, we are going to use this for, let's suppose, 10 requests per minute per IP. So it basically is going to fit exactly your rate limiter layer. Now we have this MapStruct. So this converts compile time DTO to entity mapping. So for example, when you have user DTO, then you have user entity as well. So this is for that. So this is better than model mapper because there is no reflection and it is quite fast. Then we have this guy, I think everyone knows about it. This is just to reduce boilerplate code because it provides you a lot of annotations like getter, setter, builder to basically generate your code. Now as we are building a production ready application, so we have one more dependency, which is OpenAI starter web MVC UI. So this is your Swagger UI. Basically it sounds fancy, but it is simply Swagger UI, and this is for your API testing UI, and we are going to use this and not Postman. So this auto generates API docs as well. Now then we have Jackson time support here. So this basically gives you Java 8 plus date time support functionality, and in this application we are going to handle local date time and instant using this library. So without this library we are going to get a lot of serialization issues. So that is why we are going to use this. And lastly we have our testing stack, which is basically for your unit testing. Alright, now let's set these variables. Let's go up. So inside our properties, we are going to set a few more. So the version that we are going to use is 0.12.5. Now for MapStruct, we are going to go with 1.5.5.final. Then we have Bucket4j. Here we are going to use 8.10.1. Lastly, we have Lombok, and here we are going to use 1.18.32. Alright, so let's see if we are seeing any issues. No, we don't, and we are good with our pom.xml. So let's build. So here we can see that all the dependencies are downloaded. There are a lot, and let's not go into that. Now let's work on our application.yml. So source main resources, we have this properties file. So let's first rename this to YAML, and let's open this. Alright, so first thing first is your server port. Alright, so we are done. Now we need PostgreSQL properties, so that are going to be in your data source. So what do we need? We need URL, we need username and password, and then lastly driver class name. Now for URL you need JDBC connectivity with PostgreSQL database. Where is your PostgreSQL database? It's in localhost, and the default port is 5432. The database name is going to be Instagram Auth. Simple. Now username and password are going to be in a variable which we will talk about. So let's do db username Postgre. Alright, now let's simply copy this, paste it here. Instead of username, we are going to go with password. Now driver class name, this is we already know of, which is org.postgresql.driver. Now we are done with data source. Now we need some JPA properties. So for JPA, we can use any ORM, but the default ORM for this case or this project or anywhere for data JPA is going to be Hibernate. So you can use any, but I'm going to go with Hibernate. So Hibernate DDL auto property is going to be validate, as in validate the DDL. Now, whenever we create a table or make any changes, I want to show the SQL as false, because this is going to print a lot of things in the logs and I don't want to see that. Now there are going to be some properties which we need actually. So we need format SQL true and dialect org.hibernate.dialect.PostgreSQL dialect. Now here in DDL auto we can have two more properties like update or create. So update and create are both dangerous in production, because it is going to update the entire database, and create, or for create, it is going to drop the database first. So we are doing validate because it is going to check schema whether it matches the entities or not. So yeah. Now we also want our schema to be controlled via Flyway. That's why we are not also using anything else here. So this prevents accidental DB corruption. So this basically tells Hibernate how to generate SQL for Postgre. Alright, so now we are done with JPA. Let's work on data Redis. So for Redis, we need 4 things only: host, port, password, and timeout. So we are going to have a lot of variables here like this, because for each environment you would have a different value. Also for safety reason, it's good to externalize this in your environment and not in a property file. Otherwise, if someone has access to your property file somehow, she can see anything. Now for password, again Redis password, and timeout is going to be 2000 milliseconds. So this timeout basically prevents hanging connections, right? Now we are done with this. Let's move to mail. So for mail, again, host, port, username, password, properties like your mail SMTP. So this is simple. We are going to use mail hog. So this is going to be localhost. Otherwise, if you have Gmail or anything else, you need to provide the details of that. So for now, keeping it simple. So port is going to be 1025 for mail hog, and username and password again are going to be in a variable. So mail username test, mail password test. Now auth is going to be false because we don't need any authentication and no TLS. So this works only for your local or dev testing. So if you have a production ready environment, you need to provide your actual mail addresses and username password, and these two would be true in that case. Alright, so now we are done with Spring. So now let's work on our jjwt properties. So this is a big stuff. So we need a secret, we need access token expiry, as in when do we want it to expire, then refresh token similarly. So we are going to give it 15 minutes. So yeah, this is going to be a 15 minutes, and then 7 days for refresh token. So 6048 1 2 3 4 5. Yeah, there you go. Now for your secret, we will talk about it in a few seconds, but let's move ahead with OTP first. So OTP expiry, which is generally common to 10 minutes, and length of OTP we are going to keep it at 6. Now then we have security in place. So max login attempts, let's do 5. Usually it's 3, but let's do 5. Now we have lockout duration, as in when do you want it to be logged out. So let's do 30 minutes. Now this is the important stuff, rate limit. So like I said, we have a capacity as in 10 minutes, as in 10 hits per minute per IP, right? So login capacity, let's limit it to 10. Then login refill tokens to 10. Login refill minutes 1. Now CORS, we will talk about this. Allowed origins. So again, an environment variable. If this variable does not exist, then use this default value, local host 3000. All right. So this secret we need to generate, and I'll talk about it. Access token expiry milliseconds and refresh token expiry milliseconds. I think this is pretty simple. So usually access token is a short-lived authentication token, but refresh token is something, a session continuation, right? Now OTP configuration is simple. So we are going to send an email with the OTP, and that OTP can be used to log in, or let's suppose reset the password. So we want the behavior to have 6-digit OTP valid for 10 minutes and stored in Redis. Now for security hardening, we want to prevent brute force attacks. So user fails login 5 times, or let's suppose account is locked or unlock after 30 minutes. So when he has exceeded the login attempts, then after 30 minutes he can retry. Now talking about rate limit, so capacity is basically maximum request that can be sent per minute, right? Refill is basically number of tokens added. So this means 10 login requests per minute per IP. So here is exactly what we have now, and this is all we have. A generated project, every dependency wired and understood, and our configuration in one place, a DB migration folder ready for Flyway, and the entry point. No controllers, no services, no entities, none of that exists yet, and that's deliberate. We create each package the moment we write its first class, so nothing sits empty. And no, we haven't run it. There is no database behind it and no code to exercise. The app comes to life later once we have built the pieces and wired up Docker to run everything together. For now, this clean foundation is exactly what we want. Next episode, exceptions. Before a single feature, we build the error handling backbone, a global exception handler, and a consistent API response wrapper, so every error this app ever throws comes back clean and predictable. That's the first code we write, and it's what makes the rest of the series smooth. Code is in the repository, link is in the description. Star it, see you in episode 3.